We're live. It's Sam and Rose and Richard.
Right.
It's Friday, and it's the BetaSaaSers AutoGrader thingy meeting that we do on this time on these days. Let's go to at least some version of the meeting. That's not the agenda. This might be the agenda. Yes. So we have this interesting situation where, right, Richard's been adding stuff there. I was also like adding my own notes.
No.
Let me go and see.
Oh.
No, but I hadn't saved. So I mean, it was an interesting test here. If I go and just
Okay. Should I?
no, I think
And I can save mine just
no.
before you make any changes, just as a backup. But either way, go on.
I've got yours here. I mean, we could.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I've got yours here. I mean, I guess. Yeah, what I will do. I mean, interesting. See, if I edit this now here, I think it'll give me the state of yours, and I can save yours. At least onto my pad. An interesting question here. If I now save my ones here, we can discover. So I've updated it there, and indeed, yes, Richards have been lost. So I mean, I'm not entirely surprised by that because that's like the level of sophistication that we're at with this. But I can now quickly paste Richards back in. But so I mean, this is I think the deeply ironic thing that we've. For Agile Ventures is this system for documents has been built in, which is, and I make use of it, but it's not quite as good as Google Docs, which does allow for the parallel editing. And I find for the retros and the kickoffs and so on for a couple of the projects, we're using those documents more than we are the documents in here. And I think there's a lesson there for there's a lesson there in terms of not building stuff that we can't support. But anyway, let's get in, I guess. Well, Rose, did you have any agenda items that you would like to add?
Nothing to add.
Good show. Then we can go through. Let's be a bit more formal than we have the last few weeks. We'll just work through our big list of outstanding action items. Work through all the features of the course. I am, in fact, doing this. I have just worked through the Sinatra assignment. So kind of,
Yeah.
This is, let's edit that and say ongoing. It was my intention, and it is happening. Provide up-to-date walkthrough solutions for all parts of the course. Hangouts, invite people and record. Also generate text walkthroughs. This is continuing. I am as good as my word. I have a link here to the video of myself working entirely through from start to finish the Sinatra assignments. Unfortunately, it's got lots of me going, that's an interesting design choice. I wonder, so it's not like necessarily, if you only wanted to know just how to walk through the assignment, probably not the best video in the world, but it does have the whole thing in there, and you can, it's there as a reference. So that is ongoing. I mean, generating a text walkthroughs will be another step. Yeah, not doing that. We'll put them there. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I tried to make that available. I mentioned it in the BetaSaaSers channel yesterday, and so on. Rose, you'd expressed an interest in knowing when that would happen. That was that. I mean, I'm sort of presuming that you're terribly busy and so on. What was the way in which I heralded its occasion sufficient? Like you saw the thing.
Yeah, actually, I only saw it after the fact, unfortunately.
Right. Yes. I mean, I imagine it needs to be. I'll try and flag it. I mean, I guess there's going to be a pattern probably where I will be doing this on Thursdays. I expect.
Do you know about what time?
Yeah, about the same time that this was the time that the thing that we did. So we can infer from this that was 2:19 to about it was 2 o'clock yesterday my time, and your guys are like.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's going to be like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. your time.
Oh, okay. That would be fine.
I mean, I'm not as on the balls. I would like to be doing this more a week in advance, but basically I'm just trailing. I'm just staying ever so slightly ahead of the students in the MOOC, and so this assignment gets released. The assignment gets released on the Friday. So basically, you'll find me in a panic on Thursdays trying to review the entire assignment. Is basically what's going on. Okay. I've totally not got to the homework for walkthrough draft. That's going to, I guess, be part of that when I get to it. We haven't Janet's survey. I guess we're sort of waiting for Amanda to come back and see about pushing that out. It would be a nice thing to do. It's difficult for me to prioritize it when I'm mid-flow in the MOOC, that's up to the Janet and Armando. I have not pulled out a pairing module from AV102. Having reviewed the elements, I don't know, it's still so difficult to pull out pairing modules of content from these things. Something I'll wait for Janet. We'll deal with that there. So Armando, he did now send the David Patterson video. Did any of you guys have a chance to watch any of the? It's like there's like 9.5 hours. Like the entire day is in that video. Did any of you watch any of it?
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, me neither. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that would be great, but like, yeah, okay. I mean, it'll be lovely when I have like a spare 9 hours. I think there's like a 1 hour thing from him in it, which would be good to watch. Anyway, BDTD.
But he emailed that, right?
He did, and it's also it was in the meeting note links from last weeky.
That's right. That's right. I just want to make sure I don't forget where it is.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, it would be good to have. I mean, it is great in principle having things in the meeting notes, but with like hundreds and hundreds. Look at all these meeting notes we've got.
Yeah.
It's like which is the one that had the link for the thing that we cared about. Yeah, but so yes, Dave's talk there, and I think he also emailed that to the mailing list, and I also put it in Slack. We have too many. I don't know what is this? We need like a big group mental brain or something called Google. Or anyway, so let's go here. That's he sent the video.
I want to just meld my mind to a supercomputer, and that'll do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll I think that's part 4 of the 169 course. So, yeah, renaming the BDDTDD. I'm excited to do that. I haven't got there yet. Project scope. Yeah, I think I finally this is the project that Armando's students built to sort of give an overview of the progress of student projects, and it is quite cool. And I think I now know how to get it working. I was actually since I'm just mentioning that. I'll just go over here, and so this is kind of just very quickly. I do project scope. Yeah, because I basically put in a pull request to them because basically the issues I think they've got throughout their interesting. Throughout their system, they've got all of the these env variables, and they haven't sort of extracted them into an env environment. So if we do a little search in there, we find that yeah, they're relying on the system. No. I think it's there we go. Like they've got pivotal tracker tokens and everything. It's all set, need to be set, and they're not documented, and so. Trying to run it locally wasn't working. I put in a pull request and pointed them to .env, but there's not really an action that's like that. I mean, we'll keep coming back to that. It would be nice to have the project scope functionality in Agile Ventures. I guess what I should sensibly do is just maybe remove that from here and put that into. I've got another document which is marked for the website 1, put that in. There we go. Put that in put in project scope functionality. In projects, ticket logger. I mean, there's an argument: should all of this be being run through a pivotal tracker or something? But anyway, so this is. I don't know. It's frustrating. This asking edX for the global update of release dates. I mean, I continue to like have to offset things in the MOOC every time. I don't know what the mechanism is for. I mean, as I see it, edX, it seems they basically have this. I'm not sure what pool or size of developers they have. They obviously have a development team, but they just don't. They don't want anybody externally talking directly to their developers, and they want. I guess they're serving a lot of people. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. I just feel somewhat opaque of. I would love to be able to see a tracker where that feature was present. Do you know what I mean? Like that was there as a feature request being worked on. And even if it just said, this is not, not part of the plan. I mean, I would say that the model that what I really like, if you guys, I've talked to you before about Waffle, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they have their own like feature list. So when I talk about Waffle feature list, and you can see other people in the community saying, yeah, that's the one we want. How can how can I request a new? Will I even be able to find? And this is no. yeah, I won't. See, I'd love to be able to immediately find the kind of their waffle for this thing. I guess if I go to, they have this like, is it Doorbell IO? Your boards, Agile Ventures, website one. Like they have this. I think they have the help and their help and support thing. They have like this. I now can't see. Ah, there we go. Want to request a feature? Check our public board to +1 an existing request or submit a new request at waffle.io, waffle.io, waffle.io. That needs some drying out, obviously. But so you can see here if it loads quickly enough. Yeah, and actually can I filter it and find nothing by me. But you can see like they've got pending ideas, planned, current. I'd love to see this for edX, but I guess it's a bit too. They're Pythonistas. So anyway, is that the right? Yeah, let's get rid of that window and go back to this window.
Do you know? I don't want to. This is like a real digression, and it may have come up. Do you know if why Armando and Dave moved from Coursera to edX?
I believe it was the open source part of it. I think that they were worried about, Coursera is going to be this closed shop, and edX is going to be the open source, and I think they believed that it was important that the back end was open source, and I tend to agree with them actually in some ways. Although, of course, I mean, I would be the first to admit that I think Coursera and Udacity both have slicker interfaces than edX, and although edX has been slowly improving, it's kind of, I don't know. It feels like they're improving. I don't know. They're just.
Well, the open source aspect of edX hasn't played out, at least in our.
It has not. It is not for us.
Sort of
I mean,
world,
the interesting
right?
thing
We
is.
haven't been.
No, I mean, although, so for example, Thomas and who's the Craft Academy Bootcamp in Sweden, he's now rather than using an Edge instance, he's like hosting his own OpenEdX instance. And he's getting like a lot of features there, and I mean that's something ultimately I would love that for UC Berkeley to, instead of paying edX to host their system, is that they would pay me to host OpenEdX for them. That would be and then we would have complete control, right? And we could have we could have all the SPOCs on that, and we would have control of when updates went out to them, and if there was a particular feature that we all agreed that we needed, then we could all work on it in Python and get it out. And yeah, I mean, we've got kind of this combination of, although the whole thing is open source, because we're using edX's hosted solution,
right? We
don't get the control that we do. For example, we're using Ruby on Rails for example, this site here. I mean, if we all agreed that we needed some change to this site, we could make it, and this site doesn't change without my say-so. So anyway,
right.
Yeah. So we've got, I mean, two things there from edX, which is the what have we got there? The global update release dates. I mean, I'm just
the cloning item between sections.
I wonder if it's worth me just taking those. I just tell Michael's just come online. I'm just going to tell him that I'm in this environment and in the meeting, and he might join us. We'll see. I do have a good open positive dialogue with the edX support people, and there's a special dedicated person who's also kind of like our UC Berkeley touch point, and I have good chats with them, and they're all very sympathetic, and sometimes we do actually manage to resolve things, and more often than not it's kind of like yes, sorry, we don't have that, but I guess I'm going to ping them again and ask them. I mean, they did. Hey there, Michael. They do have like this kind of edX roadmap. I mean, they've gone through a process of trying to make. They've got this feature here, that OpenEdX feature roadmap. Is that? Oh, it's a different format from there. edX build persistence. That's OpenEdX. Accessibility, data analytics, feature lists. So look, it's got these things. It's telling us there's things that they're released. So these are all stuff that's been released. And stuff, and we can see what they're working on. They're in progress to make the edX analytics pipeline easier to set up and run. And we've got feature search all features. So I could say something about date, feature mode map, and there are no features planned related to dates apparently. And what was the other one that I had here? We had date and that's copying. Yeah, so we could put copy and then put that in there. And there are no features related to copying or cloning.
Cloning.
Not at the moment, but that's open. See, then that's open at X, and I wonder if that's different again from. Okay, well, and then they had it. This is the one I remember them pointing to me before about that was in the Atlassian. Oh, it's been moved to. It has been moved to the Open at X. Okay. No. Right. Okay. Yeah, well, I guess I think there's definitely an action item there for me to check in with edX about. So Sam, this is like check with edX where we can see their roadmap, features in progress, etc. I mean, the funny thing is that for a long time they also had this. Although I think they still have, although they got that like sort of help. Is it that one? Flex Studio Support. Yeah, you remember this? We used to play with that. Yeah. And then there's people still posting things to this. But it feels like this, I don't know, are people... I mean, see, there were, at one time, there were people responding in this. It feels like that's kind of... public discussions. There's one with replies. Okay, no, they are sort of supporting people through there as well. Okay. But so I think these are certainly two features that we would be interested in. I mean, Rose. This one is so annoying, particularly. Oh, it's so frustrating. Anyway. Let's see below for features we would like. Okay. All right. Well, let's carry on going through some of this. So I guess, yeah, you guys, if you were desperate to blog on Armando's SaaS blog spot deep thing, you could send him your details. And he did review my blog post and pushed it out to remove that. I went ahead and reduced the TDD is dead videos to just links, and actually found there's a great there's a sort of Martin Fowler TDD is dead overview kind of post here that has links to all of the videos, and it has like the minutes, like a description of the entire thing, which is good to read. I have to say, I come out like, much as I find DHH kind of offensive on social media sometimes, I must say that I sort of, I think what it seems to me, and maybe he changed his tune, it seems to me that what he's railing against is people developing, very, very complex, models, test-driven at the unit level, and things being disconnected from like the acceptance tests, which is absolutely, I think that's a serious problem. But yeah, so what I've done in the MOOC now is linked to this rather than linking to the videos, and so on. I'll just pop that in there in case you want to find it again.
Okay.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, let's just paste it into BetaSaaSers. Let's pop it in there as well.
Good.
Okay. Right. So now Armando was talking last week about having these self-check questions in the Sinatra thing moved into edX, which I haven't done. Michael and I, as we were looking through that, I'm now, the interesting thing about reviewing this is, gosh, there are a lot of these self-check questions in here, and they're really quite extensive. And Rose, you've been through this whole assignment, right? Yeah.
Sure.
But Richard.
And I've found the questions to be very helpful.
Oh yes. I mean, I think. Oh, go on.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I've walked through parts of it with a variety of students, and you know, they felt that it was helpful. But again, we talked not yesterday, last week with Armando about the idea that if he added the objectives, it would even be more helpful.
Yeah, so that he's done that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's fantastic.
We've now got a section on learning goals and
Yeah.
prerequisites here,
Mhm.
and similarly for homework one. Richard, you've read through this maybe, but haven't worked through it, or you've skimmed it maybe.
I've not.
Your audio breaking up there. I guess you've not looked at it in any detail. Okay.
Okay, I have not. I just repeat. I have not. Are you hearing me?
It's coming and going. You might
No.
want to type into the group chat. Just.
I've
Yeah,
got an issue with this assignment that I'd love to mention, Sam.
Before you do, we've got it on the main agenda to review it. So let's just we finish doing the
Yeah, I just want to mention it. That's all.
Yep, sure, absolutely. We'll certainly come to that in a minute. So there we go. Armando asking for the GitHub ideas of instructors. I think there was a suggestion like, you know, he can get them from this is the question bank system. This one from Teams. Rose. Yeah. So I mean, the action for you, did you write up some notes on the conceptual challenges that you thought were a particular concern in Hang Person?
Actually, I was hoping we would talk about it a little more today before I wrote something up.
Okay, yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. And then we've also got this. I basically haven't pulled Ruby Calisthenics into the MOOC, but I think I could do, but it requires a bit of restructuring. And the current MOOC, we've already committed to a certain number of things. So here we are on the agenda. Just a quick overview. The MOOC week 2 is live. The homework 2 and the quiz 2 are live. I've got now actually all of the videos from Berkeley X, which are the screen captures of Armando's new course, which is actually a huge step forward, because what that means is for all the components of the course where we've now got, you know, updated videos. I may have mentioned this last week, but last week all I had was the talking head stuff of Armando, and not the and to be honest, I mean, what I find deeply ironic about this, all of the effort that goes into splitting up these videos into 5-minute things, is to me the full-on hour and a half videos, just the screen capture with all the details. That's so much more valuable to me and so much more interesting to watch through than the. Anyway, I'm a crazy person, obviously, but yeah. So no big news there. We can go on to Richard's.
And you think the not hearing me, huh?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now, Richard. Go on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
You think it's the lecture versus the talking heads aspect, as opposed to what I remember is I thought I liked the videos from the first session better than the second, and I thought it just had to do with is that they were a little rougher but a little bit more real, and I thought it was the redoing that was the issue, but you're saying it may be the presentation format too.
Oh well, I mean, I think for me personally, I think that the
anyway, so it's not a big deal.
No, I mean the key thing is that
the reason.
Go on.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, go on.
I mean, go, if you have something, yeah, go on, and I'll because I'm.
Yeah. Hey, Michael.
Having taken several MOOCs,
yeah,
and knowing some people that consume MOOCs heavily, I think they've come to expect short videos and not full-on lectures.
Oh, absolutely. I think and there's a
and everything kind of being condensed to, you know, straight to the point and not kind of developing it and giving nuances and side discussion.
I think
a lot of it, as far as preference goes, I believe that it's been a sea change in the way people communicate, and perhaps, you know, if your birth date is is, within one range, you prefer one way of communication. If your birth date is a different range, more people may prefer this other range where everything is sound bites and brief little, texts and this and that. I don't know. I mean, the idea of having ongoing communication seems to be sort of disappearing.
Yes, I think you're right, Rose. I think with the course, I mean, I wouldn't be suggesting that we should drop what we currently have and revert to the previous lecture format. And I think that MIT with their Open MIT thing had that, and I think it's not for the masses. I think what's ironic in particular about this course that Armando and Dave do at Berkeley is that they do it in these hour and a half long segments. They do split it up into chunks, but it feels a little bit shoehorned into the new format. Like courses that I've done in Udacity and Coursera, where the course is aimed specifically at the MOOC, and it's recorded separately for the MOOC, and it's sort of chunked. That's one thing. It's fantastic. I think that what I love about having access to the full videos of David Armando's course is I can actually see the full picture of what they're trying to do. And what's strange about the MOOC format is that there's different little bits of elements taken out of the course, and I think in that process we lose some of the most valuable things that David and Armando say to their students. And so given the amount of effort that I'm involved in, trying to transform one into the other, it's somewhat ironic. But yes, let's go on to Richard's thing. So Richard has very, very kindly added us. This is the this is the thing from before. And you were saying, Richard, that you thought that this is your Cloud9 workflow and tips. You thought you had another document that had even more great stuff in it, but that you couldn't find.
Well, I did not. That's what I said. I didn't update this one. I thought that I had included some stuff for the IRB interaction, just what you're sort of looking there, like the load, debug process, and testing, and I updated it differently based on saying let's try using the debugger. But the key thing I want people to be able to do is to have in their mind their own test cases.
Yes.
And try them out, and I think especially until people get more mature and sophisticated, doing that interactively, rather than someone else providing them the test cases, or rather than writing test cases in the abstract. I like the idea of try out a test case. Oh, I'm getting the answer. I'm not, and now I'm going to put this in my associated test as they're sort of learning this whole paradigm.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're sounding a bit like a robot. I don't know if there's anything you can do to boost your Wi-Fi.
I'm gonna. I can. Would this be? I'm gonna try taking out my heads.
Yeah, obviously the video. Richard, thanks so much for sharing that, and I totally take your point there about students having the test cases in their mind. You've got two points. Curious to hear thoughts about the status of Ruby calisthenics and hand posts and assignments. Curious to hear about new videos, both official core videos and Sam's new ones. Interest especially because of reduced classroom hours this fall. Yeah, so we've already been talking about the new videos. But yeah, basically, I think by the time you guys start in your next run, we should have all the videos at the very least updated to be using the latest RSpec syntax. And my intro videos, my videos talking about pairing and so on are also updated to the latest version of Cloud9. And so on and so forth, and that will all be in the MOOCs if when we clone them for you later on. So I guess that brings us on to there's the Ruby calisthenics and hand post assignments. I'll just mention the thing that's taking up. We've had about 100 students submit the Ruby intro assignment through the peer review component in the course. I've been getting lots of access to that. There is the main thing I've just been working on. Actually, is trying to demystify the peer review training process, which I think has been tripping people up a lot. Because basically, as I think when we ran it ourselves in our little mob programming group or mob reviewing group, you're in this thing. It says training assessment 1 of 3. You press a button, but because the text remains largely the same, many people miss that you've moved on to training assessment 2 of 3 and just don't realize. So I've just created this document, which hopefully we're going to share with the the students to sort of explain how that works. I think also what I really want to do is, now we're getting some great videos of students doing pairing, is actually use the student, ask permission for the students, and maybe use some of their real life pairing videos as the training examples, which will, I think, another thing that happens here is that the fact that the training elements that I added, it sort of, I think it randomizes the order that you get them in, and sometimes they just get a video, the null video, and the first, it's maybe confusing for the student to be given the first example is just a null video. Anyway, so that is a big thing that's on my mind, but we don't need to do anything else about that today. So I think we can focus in on Ruby calisthenics and hang person. Richard wants to hear about that. Rose, you've got an issue with that. Michael and I just worked through it. So in the forefront of our mind, just about to be released in the MOOC. That's the hang person one. I guess that just Ruby calisthenics it kind of needs to be updated to have the new grader format for me to sort of pull it into. I mean, I could kind of shoehorn it and use it with the old one, but that would, I think, kind of be a bit of a hack. And the older grader is on its last legs. So I think it really, I would probably introduce Ruby calisthenics into the MOOC. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe might go on. Rose?
I mean, it's already formatted in a particular manner. I realize that there's a problem with the AutoGrader, but could you just pull it out into its own section and label it optional?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's certainly entirely possible to do that. I mean, I guess, like, in terms of my focus at the moment, we've got the MOOC is running live. I could be popping that in as an optional thing, but as far as the MOOC goes, the majority of students are not going to do optional things, and all of my time is focused on trying to make sure that what's the word? That the things that are required are working and running. So Richard's asking whether it would be available in the full and on the new grader. And I guess, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that would be. I mean, I'm going to be going away to Japan, and there's a question about what I will spend my time working on. I thought to kind of like review the latest version of the textbook again. As you heard last week, Amanda's very happy for Ruby calisthenics to be pulled into the MOOC. I guess if we just talk about where because it links up to hang person. So if we look at the MOOC quickly, let's keep that open. We don't need the waffle thing anymore. But where it sits in the MOOC, and let's go in here. Look at the course sequence. So we've got this week 2 on Ruby, and then we've got this like little introduction to TDD. I mean, the funny thing is about this is we've got this little chunk of lectures to come in here in order to try and introduce RSpec earlier. But then actually, when Amanda does this lecture, like within the first 6 weeks of his course, it's like then all of the stuff is presented together. And actually, for the purpose of the MOOC, I'm not really sure that I understand the rationale, but the bits are sort of split into different places all over so we've got that there, and then now, and I think we did this last time, was like, oh, we're kind of introducing Sinatra, but we haven't introduced anything about the web client framework, and so we've got the 3 little pieces that are the beginning of the SaaS architecture lectures are in there, and then Sinatra sits here, basically. So, and this is where Ruby calisthenics used to sit in the absence of these 3 elements. And having worked through what struck me is what is so fundamentally different between hang person and all of the other assignments is, this contains a really quite extensive walk. Maybe is there a bit of a walkthrough in some of the other ones, like as well as kind of a walkthrough of using Sinatra, which is not mentioned anywhere else in the course, and the deploy to Heroku, which is great. We've then got, we've got a sort of there's an assignment in here to do hang person, right, which is one thing by itself. Then we've got this whole stuff about REST and so on, and then it's connected to the Sinatra, and then actually running, and then we've got Cucumber as well, and in some ways it's like it's a fantastic microcosm for the entire course. But and I'm all for, like, I think, yeah, people should be learning, they should just like get started and do projects and like forget this introducing a little piece at a time. But it kind of, I don't know. it almost feels like it's part of the textbook, or I was just quite.
It can be overwhelming. I
Right.
had students mention that they liked the Sinatra, like what they got out of it, but that it would have maybe felt a little better if somehow it was presented in little chunks.
Yeah.
We're going to do this much, then we're going to do this much, and then like a sense, I guess, of completion after each chunk.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like, oh my God, this thing is never ending, and now
right.
I'm lost because I sort of understood what I was doing at the beginning, but now this is so lengthy that by the time I get to the end of it, I've forgotten what I've done.
Yeah.
And like the suggestion I got was put it in chunks, and then at the beginning of each chunk have a little review of what you did the previous chunks.
Right.
It's sort of like, how in a TV show,
Sure.
they have previously on blah, blah, blah.
Ruby Hang person.
Yeah.
You remember how you got stuck on that pending statement? Well, we're going to go on and talk about mocks and stubbing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, I mean, I think that the thing is that what I think is part of it is that Armando, I think, has written this particularly with his UC Berkeley students in mind,
Right.
and the UC Berkeley students are doing a project in parallel throughout the thing. So it's kind of almost critical for them to actually really start to understand Cucumber within the first 3 or 4 weeks of the course and start using it. It's like they kind of, whereas I think for other people who are not necessarily doing a project in parallel, well, and even then.
Yeah, my students do the same thing.
Oh, they do a project in parallel.
Although, yeah, but let me see. I think we start work on the project something around the 3rd week, and then by week 5 or 6 they have a poster session.
Yeah.
And at that point they've worked out the stories, like some basic stories and the storyboard of what they want to do, and decided what their minimum viable product will be, and then they spend the rest of the semester, working through iterations or cycles, whatever you want to call it.
Sure. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Go on.
Right. So my issue, if you can hear me, is my understanding is the Sinatra was supposed to be a gentler introduction to Homework 2, or to the concepts of Homework 2.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways that's why I've gotten a bad feel about it. In some ways, instead of it's not accomplished that, it's just raised the bar in different areas. And what we find is after we do some of the Ruby stuff, which people are still like their heads are spinning about, is then we are jumping right into Rails, and there's a lot of new information and a lot of things to process and pull together. And Sinatra hasn't fixed or solved that, which is, I thought, the point of it. But it's introduced just another set of new information for people to process and get their heads around.
Yeah, I think. Go on, Rose.
I was going to say, a lot of students tell me in retrospect that they really appreciated it, but at the beginning it was overwhelming. And, they don't want it to go away. They just, as I said, maybe smaller chunks, or explaining how also this is going to relate to what they do in Rails in the future.
I mean, I think that the key thing is, like, as a replacement here for the Ruby calisthenics, I mean, it's an interesting one because the Ruby calisthenics has in it some things like with the metaprogramming, which are actually, I think, really quite challenging. But then, and it's great to get that, but actually is not necessary for really understanding the whole web framework. But at least in the Ruby calisthenics, you've got some more advanced Ruby programming, and you've got some more test cases, and so on. And that that's it. Like the bar from Ruby Intro to Ruby Calisthenics is not that big a jump. Now to this Ruby Sinatra thing, the Ruby Sinatra thing has like the Ruby complexity of, let's say, one or two of the Ruby Calisthenics things, and then it adds Sinatra. But then it also, on top of Sinatra, it's got like introducing the cucumber as well, and it's kind of Armando has this. He's taken this approach of trying to introduce students to the unit testing and RSpec kind of by osmosis, by sort of throwing those things in there. And I'm sure that works for some people, but I think it's and this is what I was experiencing. Even myself working through. I wonder if I can quickly find the Cloud9 instance that Michael and I were using. That was part of it. Have that there. That was just me checking the Ruby version in Cloud9. I've probably lost the thing now. That's less important. But when this process of like having to edit the underlying file and gradually remove the pending elements just seems bound up with all sorts of confusion. So anyway, rather than just complaining, I think that what it seems to me is that sensibly what we would do from the point of view of the MOOC is like remove week -1 and stretch it out so that we kind of split out like at the end of I think the Ruby Calisthenics thing makes sense about here, right? And then the architecture thing for this, like, see, I think it's odd to start talking about the restfulness and stuff in this homework assignment when you've got the videos of it coming up later. Do you know what I mean?
Now are you talking about chapter 2 here?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Sinatra goes well with the discussion in chapter 2.
Yeah, and we've kind of got this. The difficulty is that the chapter 2 is it comes in and it talks about model view in the sequence of model view controller and then models data database as an active record, which is kind of all irrelevant for the Sinatra assignment. But then you've got like the controllers and the template views and the I mean it's kind of, we've got a new assignment sort of being shoehorned into the slightly older video.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in some ways the interesting thing would be to re-watch like the full Armando videos and work out a new slicing up of the MOOC to make better sense, but that's a huge undertaking. Yeah. Sorry, Rose, go on. You're going to say?
Oh, I was going to say that, well, the other thing is that throughout the assignment, I think it would help to make references to the chapter and say what does apply and what doesn't apply.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, I do think it's important. Now, this semester, I think what helped was that we did the Ruby introduction homework, and then in class, we started the calisthenics. We did it together. Yeah. And that seemed to help students make the jump from Ruby to the Sinatra homework.
Yeah. Did you all run Autotest when you were doing the assignments?
Some of the students did. I said, look, we have issues with this often. If it works for you and you want to do it, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. We can. I ran the test manually so that they could see how it was done, and some of them, got Autotest working and they liked it and they went on with it. So, I was fine with that. But in class, as a demonstration, I showed how you would run each test.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I found the people that. I mean, at least in the homeworks that I was using, the people that ran the auto test, even if they got it to work, sort of like Rose, I said, if it works, fine, but just don't spend any time getting it to work. There's problems. But the people who for whom it did work smoothly, I found did not necessarily know or understand how to test their code manually, so it was almost a disadvantage.
Right. Indeed. Yeah. I mean, I made a series of notes based on working through the Sinatra assignment, and which I've just sort of pasted in there. The things that I did change, and I tried to keep my changes relatively minimal, is I upgraded it to work with Ruby 2.3, which is the default that's on 2.3.0, which is on the default on Cloud 9. I fixed a couple of minor issues, which is on Ruby 2.3. I fixed some syntax issues in there related to using the rerun gem, and I came sort of left with other things to do. One was I was, worrying, is it to work, like, I feel like some students may just like be trying to like, oh, I'm not going to read all of this, and they're going to be like going and looking for the little elements that it feels like almost the descriptions.
That's a problem.
Ideally the descriptions would kind of maybe be somewhere else, and you could look at those descriptions if you wanted to. I mean, anyway, so that was one thing. What I also did was basically made sure it consistently says that students should clone the repo rather than forking, because I think that's it. I guess there's another one that I noted is that there's kind of, and this is the same as I think is a criticism we've occasionally had of the textbook. I think it's not necessarily consistent in here, like which commands you're supposed to run versus and what you do. Like the instructions. This is being said about the textbook as well, hasn't it? That basically you're kind of, it's got like this description of theory interspersed with little elements. I mean, so here, like it's got bundling things that we're supposed to do. Parts of it are like a very detailed walkthrough, and then other parts it's got kind of bits missing, and and then sometimes what have we got? Like a situation where it's asking you to do things. I guess code that you're supposed to add is on a section there. Yeah, like so here then we've got this is something that you run from the command line, but it's been broken out there. Whereas sometimes it's, I think if there was a consistent pattern for like commands that you wanted to run always being broken out like this.
Either a consistent pattern or perhaps a color background or something to signal what's the intent of this section.
Yeah,
because we were talking about some examples just last night. A few of the students and I were talking about some of the examples in Chapter 3 and some of the tables, and they're very useful.
Yeah.
But you've got interspersed in the same table, in the same section with the same font, you've got examples of patterns interspersed with real examples. Okay,
right.
I mean examples with actual, names and data.
You mean like this here?
And then mixtures of the two.
Yeah. So this is like Chapter 3 of the textbook.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Chapter 4.
Okay.
4. What am I saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And
so we've got, this is more Rails stuff, right?
Right. And I'm trying to think. It was a little further along, I think. But there were some very useful figures and tables. But then, actually, could you go back one second? No. Not here. Oh, here. Was it here? No, it was a different one, but it was a table like that.
Yeah.
Where again, it was like a totally mixed, and if you're not familiar with it, it's hard to be able to tell what is being indicated as a pattern and what is being indicated. For instance, sometimes it would indicate in a URI, controller and resource, something like that, and then other times it would give the name of the controller and the resource, okay, and not explain that in one case it was, like here, for instance, it's very consistent.
Yeah.
We have URI return and it's movie, okay, but if you have in one spot you have the word resource being used, and then another place you have movie. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Or in one place you have movies controller being used, and then right in the same block you have just controller being used
Mm.
as an example. So,
Mm.
you know, those kinds of issues where if there were a signal via a different font or, you know, certain things in maybe italics or a different color background,
Yeah.
I think it would then be extremely useful.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just like anything that's not GitHub Markdown seems terribly confusing these days. The and sort of having, I don't know, there's just sort of a format that I'm used to there. I mean, what I feel like with this one is, yeah, I kind of want to re-edit it in my own style, but maybe that's, you know, you get used to your own style and it works for you, and maybe it's not going to work for everybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Armando was talking about last week about having the various sort of self-check things be pulled into edX. I have this, there's kind of an HTML pop-up technique that we can now use in Markdown that I'd like to try, but I kind of put off doing that in order to get to the end of the assignment. I would almost like to rewrite this as I have rewritten the first one to show how to run subsets of tests using RSpec syntax rather than doing auto tests. But I've ended up not doing that on this occasion because the whole thing is so, the whole thing is so involved. It's such a big, you know, the Ruby intro is such that you can make relatively much changes throughout, whereas doing that consistently through this is kind of hard.
Right.
I have some other.
It's an interesting thing about the design principles of the course as far as maintainability and designing the components and the interconnectedness that you know, just listening to you talk about it sounds like have been violated.
Well, indeed. I think in so many ways. I mean, there are some other minor quibbles. One of the things I think about the pending, there is a situation where you end up with nested pendings. You have like depending on the describe block, and then you have pending inside things, and so you have to realize to remove them from two places. I think that's potentially very confusing.
I had students get mixed up because they're like, well, everything works, right? And I'm like, well, you haven't unpended all your tests. So yes, I did. No,
and then you can end up in a situation where you've made stuff work and it's in a block, and I mean, it's sort of, I was able to kind of get through it, but I have quite an extensive knowledge of RSpec, and I was still getting stuck in places managing it with the pending things. I think I identified the conceptual issue that I think is the one that you were talking about before, Rose, and is the one that and I think it relates to this concept of a valid guess. This is being talked about in the mailing list.
That's one of the issues. Okay, so the name of the method is guess, right? Yes. And it sounds like the point is maybe to process a guess, but it's actually doing two things. It's processing a guess, and it's validating a guess.
Right, exactly.
And that kind of bothered me a little. That it maybe there should be a separate validation method that it invokes, rather than, I mean, it should do one thing. And I don't know if I'm just being nitpicky here, or, you know.
Well, I mean, I think there's layers, because independently of the number of things that the method is doing, what took me a while to work out going through this is that when we guess something, there's like a guess that's invalid because it's not a character, and then also a guess that's like invalid because you've guessed it before.
Yeah, one is an error, and one is just it returns false because it's invalid because you already guessed it.
Yes, that's right. But then the concept of validity is conflating two things. And what struck me is that that's not kind of referred, like that's implicit in the structure of the tests, but you have to read RSpec kind of to work that out.
Right.
And so the thing that it was occurring to me is that what might have been helpful is kind of more of a description of, so in the README, when we talk about the hang person game, like so basically here, So it describes here guessing the same letter repeatedly is simply ignored. And so this is our description of the game, right? But the game never mentions the concept of validity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that seems to be, I mean, of course, there's a temptation to always add more text to things, which people don't necessarily read. But yeah, I mean, it would seem there that that's a big win for having the tests in Cucumber, for example, where you could actually, you know, this thing here, because we describe guessing correctly, and then this just says it returns true. And the description, like if we run this, and it will tell us what it will say, like the hang person game, you know, in the context of guessing, returns true. Okay, in terms of guessing correctly, returns true, which is an accurate description of, you know, the value that's being returned, but it's not using our domain language to describe, you know, and the kind of the fact that the validity concept is actually just happens to be introduced to this variable name.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
this is the section that students got confused in.
Yeah.
Most of the rest of it, no problem, they got through, but almost to a 1, they had problems understanding what was going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was then wondering, yeah, is the thing to do, you know, that we need to add this description to the text there? I mean, what? Yeah, I would love to rewrite this in Cucumber so that our description of the domain environment was readable and comprehensible. I mean, this almost stands here as a kind of an example. I mean, that actually, well, I was going to say that stands as an example of why we should use Cucumber rather than RSpec. Although I think with actually the RSpec could be rewritten so that it gave a much cleaner description of the domain. To come to that point that you say about we both guess the thing and then we ask whether it was valid or not. It's interesting about the conflating those two things. It is doing two things at the same time. It's asking. We are asking for an assessment of this, you know, element. So it's kind of. It does seem sort of, you know, you would have to, like, you could have it so that
there was a lot going on there, and it's deceptive. It's so simple, but there's sort of a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on.
As you said, you know, like 4 different layers.
Yeah, well, there is, and then there's complex logic there. I guess that the question is about though should it be more than one? I mean, you can clearly split out more than one method. I think the interesting question is about, like, in terms of the public interface of the game. Should it be that guess does not return anything, and then there should be a separate method which is like would be last guess valid ?
Yeah, something like that.
Which would then be, maybe that would be easier for students and all of us to understand. I'm just going to add that as a element in there.
By the way, I have. If you look at my screen, I have the example of the little table here.
Okay.
Do you see? I don't know if you can see this. Get controller action ID.
Yeah.
Or get photos preview ID. Why would it be one or the other? Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, students first looking at this were very confused by what this was trying to tell them. And notice here we have photos preview ID, photos preview ID, photos action ID. So now here we have photos, but then here this is more like what?
Yeah, I think that this is showing us, like, for example, that first one, that photos preview ID and controllers action ID would both match the same thing. So there's 2 roots there, and photos preview 3 would match both of them.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that they get confused between, you know, I mean, if there were a way to show that a little more clearly, you know, that it's not like literally the word controller or the word action or the word ID. That's the pattern part of it.
Right.
And then here with photos and preview, you have an actual name of a you know, controller and
I mean,
an action.
The figure 4.2 description at the below, it says, as the elaboration explains, roots can include wildcard tokens such as :controller and :action, which determine the controller and action which will be invoked. Any other tokens beginning with : plus any additional parameters encoded in the URI will be made available in the params hash. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it explains the wild card part well.
Yeah.
But I think it should say something about, that these actual examples, that if you're not using the wild card, you'll be plugging in something real, so
Yeah.
to speak. I'm not
Right.
quite sure how to say that properly.
Yeah, we'll work towards it. I was just going to add here, so the conceptual issue of guess being both making a guess and determining the validity of that guess. And so
Yes.
one can imagine that the public interface of this is if you have class hang person, there's def guess, and that takes a letter, and then we've got def. I mean, it seems kind of convoluted. Like if you need to assess the validity of the thing that you're just sending in, you can see how it sort of makes sense to conflate them. But in terms of the methods doing less, we could have this question of last guess valid question mark, and I guess the game should always have kind of a state that there was a guess previously. So you would have. Would we think this would be cleaner to do it like this? Would this be a
To me,
better?
it seems, but
Yeah.
that's me.
Richard, any? I mean, I guess you haven't gone through this. I mean, maybe we're talking about guesses and valid and things, and you're like, what are they talking about?
No, right. I mean, I'm following the issues, but I'm relating it because of my tremendously more complicated logistic issues that I have in the fall. Just the way my course is going to be structured, and now it's like, I'm not getting the warm feeling that I'd like to about the hang person because that's not what my students need. Is more reason to be like confused. And then even just the idea of like, even Ruby calisthenics is questionable. So anyway, I will get in a better mood after we hang up.
Sure. Well, I guess you'd be in a warmer if I was saying, oh yes, I'm going to work through the summer and make sure that you have Ruby calisthenics available for you in the fall. Then that would probably give you a warmer feeling.
A little bit. And I, if I weren't doing this other course that I'm teaching is unexpectedly consuming like full time as if I'm regular working, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah. You've got a lot. Just as a complete, we sort of need to wrap up fairly soon. As a complete random side thing, I'll just notice if you guys are keen on supporting me doing more of this, we are just releasing Agile Ventures Premium as a way to support Agile Ventures mission. We've signed up to Agile Ventures Premium members and Premium Plus to get extra pairing time with me. So if you want to, I don't know if there's a. I mean, I'm busy trying to make the whole Agile Ventures thing sustainable. My HPU gig is kind of wrapping up. So if you want to, there's a new mechanism through which you can, help make me be, more relaxed and able to do more stuff. If you're interested, do read about my attempts to make people pay me to like pair with them.
You're putting that in the notes?
I'm just putting
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat. We just signed up our first Premium Plus person. That's £100. It's UK pounds, £100 a month, and they get 2 hours of pair programming time with an AV mentor, which will probably be me, in this instance. But I'll pop those in the notes as well. I guess I'm just gonna. I'm interested, Michael. We were just talking about this an alternate interface there for a hang person, where we split out the process of guessing from checking whether the last guess was valid. Any thoughts on that? As better, worse, we don't care.
Not really.
No. Okay. That's good. Michael's a fantastic. Is it bellwether or something, or canary for are things actually worth discussing at length? And answer possibly no. Anyway, the difficult thing being that because of the length of the Sinatra thing, changes have side effects and not work. I think it's definitely the case, Richard. What you should be getting the warm feeling from is the rest of us have been doing this detailed assessment. that can allow you to avoid some headaches because you won't throw yourself into Sinatra hang person
Now,
regression as a balance person.
right, the avoiding meaning like supporting the students with hang persons or with hang person, or avoiding meaning skipping the assignment, or
I mean,
either.
potentially skipping the assignment. I mean, I think, to be honest, like, as you were saying before, you had thought the point was, and you were hoping that Sinatra might be a Sinatra assignment might be something that would be a gentler introduction into some of
Right.
the
That's why you mentioned Sinatra in the first place, if I recall.
Exactly right. And I think, and Armando has also gone onto it for that. The funny thing is see, Armando's initial reserve about Sinatra is he was saying, oh, actually, this requires like, so much extra stuff to get off the ground, like, that's going to be difficult. And then, so what he's done in this assignment is you actually don't really spend any time writing Sinatra code. The way it's set up is you write like a absolutely trivial Sinatra app that just does a hello world. Which that I think is, I mean, in some ways, part of it is like the hello world thing should be it kind of, you don't want it front loaded onto that should be one thing that you do and you submit and you've finished, and in fact that's what we do actually in our AV1 and 2 course, is making this like this part 0 he has, that's like a single assignment that we have students do and they submit to the AutoGrader and they have a sense of completion, and that's done. Right, now move on to the next thing. But so effectively in the assignment, so you've got a Sinatra app built for you, and you can walk around and wonder and say, ooh, and all of these things like individually, like what is session before, after Sinatra Flash, is all explained in some detail in the walkthrough. But so the work that you end up having to do is to add a little bit of code here just to talk to the hang person game and access the interface. Which is, I mean, what he's gone for is trying to show how here is a web app, and we've got a separate kind of engine, and here are the points at which we connect it to that engine in order to create a playable game. As Rose is saying, I think it's, once you can see the whole picture, it's fantastic. That he's then also kind of gone for, oh, let's see if we can introduce cucumber by osmosis as well, which I don't know.
Right. Sort of, and except it sounds like, oh well, we could just use this first part, but I'm also hearing things that it really doesn't. It's not easy to break this thing apart.
Well,
and this is a longer discussion. We can have this in the future too. I know you want to go. This is the kind of thing that interests me over the summer. One of the.
I mean, I think one of the things that we encountered at the boot camp is that we originally had quite a lot of things that were in this, like a README like this, and it's quite long. And I think one of the challenges with this is people get lost. They're following this through. They're kind of, okay, so we've done that. Okay, they get up, they go come back to tea, and then what was I doing? Kind of thing. There's a kind of a navigation issue. So I mean, really, what I think there's no reason particularly why it should be in a single README. Like fairly straightforward to break it up so that parts 0 through what have you were actually separate, MD files within here with a little bit of light navigation around it, and then you could move from one to the other, and you would, I think, even then you just get a slightly stronger feeling of completion. It's what I did in I did it in the we've got the homework. Is it the legacy? You're not going to give me the legacy ones? Let's go here. Yeah, so I split like the legacy. I actually split it out into 2 separate repos. Did I? Is that what I did? Yeah. Well, actually, I did. So basically, you get code to fill one screen, and then you kind of there, and then you've got like there. It's maybe a screen or 2, and then you've done that, and then you move on like this, right? Is it? I mean, that's something that could easily be done. Is splitting that? Am I deluded?
That sounds like a good idea, actually. Yeah. I mean, I think when there's so much there and you're reading on a screen, it's not like a book where you can turn the pages, and if you kind of forgot a part, you flip back to the previous page really quickly and then flip back. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. It's
yeah. And it's so easy to get lost in these.
Yes.
That I think would really help, not only with navigation, but kind of the flow of your mental stream, so to speak.
That's good to hear. I'll be thinking about introducing that. The funny thing that I notice is that there's so many things that I think, oh, that would be a really good idea, and I've often sort of pursued them, like, you know, the whole framework of rational adventures or what have you, and then, like, you know, how much value are people getting out of these things? It would be nice to be measuring it all. Anyway, I think we have covered the items on the agenda. We've generated. I guess the action item there really is, Sam, you know, and others. Can we split components of hang person up? I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, there's the common request there, which I'm like, Janet was saying she'd like to see the Ruby intro thing broken into the 3 parts and have the 3 separate AutoGraders rather than submitting them all at once. Yes, indeed. There we go. Okay. Well, wonderful chatting with you guys as usual. I guess we'll leave it there, and same time, the same bat time, same bat channel next week.
There you go. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Good stuff. Thanks,
All
guys.
right, take care, Richard. Take care, Sam.
Yeah,
Thanks.
take care, guys. Richard, I hope you feel, you know, a sense of release and general positive feeling after the.
Absolutely not. But it's okay, because I'll move on to other things. It's okay. But what I mean, in a second, I have 2 to 3 times as many students and things go exponentially as you add more students. So once things start to go wrong or have some issues, I'm just not sure how I'm going to solve this problem. So, but there's a little bit of time.
Yep. Cool beans. All right.
Thanks.
Bye for now.